Happy rising, soul family. Mm, Well, just an update of intel that came through and the present energies. And whoa, we are in right now. Well, first, it's all about the trees, the wind, and the dragons in this moment. I was sitting in the forest 2 days ago, just being, in oneness with the elementary consciousness and the animals and so I asked if there was a message they would like to share, and a message came um, through the trees. The tree spoke through my highest light. She translates it, and the message was very magical that we can hear the song of the dragons. They are singing right now to assist us with their frequency. If we align ourselves to the branches, the highest branches and leaves in the trees, and open up ourselves fully to the wind. So we become the wind, and we align ourselves to the highest branches in the trees and the leaves. And when we do so, because I did what I was told to do, you can hear the very deep sound. It's like a very deep humming sound in different frequencies. It's not really a song, but it's more a sound that is referred to as the song of the dragons. And it sounded a bit like like that, those deep sounds. And it's very empowering if you align to it. Very nurturing also, and it's so nurturing for your heart space. So, and I asked, is there anything else? And yeah, again, the trees. Sit between the roots of the tree and align yourself to the dragon, the original dragon grid that has been fully activated. To anchor yourself fully and align to it. Very strong. And of course, all within as without. So you also align, of course, to your inner dragon grid. So that's what's going on right now in the field. And in the video before, I shared about the portal activation and the triangle fire codes. And we are going towards the end states that partly came through and partly was reflected back to me. The way I feel it now, and I known it to be true in this now moment, because of what they've told me and what I've experienced myself, and through the reflection back to soul family, is that it's like we have the portals within, of course, that we open and go through, and that aligns us eventually to all that is, but there are also portals outside ourselves. Um, and um, and lots of them have been part of the dark, the dark entered codes within those portals. But lots of us are being guided to go in divine timing to those places, those portals. Oh, there he goes. Yeah, Marley. Ja, hoor je, Mokoya, where you are. It's his dog enemy. Something like that is walking by. Sorry about that. He needed to protect the house. Yeah, yeah. Um, so, um, the portals have been so the fire codes have been brought into the portals and activated, and it's working for us now, and they cannot no longer use the portals, the darkness. It's the end game, and they have already lost. So that's why they are, trying everything they can to get us out of balance and attack us. But later more about that. And so the way I see it now, feel it now, knowing it to be true, is that like the first different soul families that are ready, that are part of a monad group, also will be guided to go towards the portals in divine timing, and we go through the portal to the new that is already there, and others who are not ready yet will stay in the game for a while, a bit longer, until they have brought back well, all their programs and disbalanced emotions back to 0 point and align themselves, and then they go through it. Well, that's a bit how I see it now, and yeah, that's how I see it, and yeah. So that's very happy news. Yeah. So that, and I've written down some things because I always forget so many things, and so I talked the dragon songs. Oh yeah, and no, first, yeah, well, I've been brought back for the past 2 weeks now. It started 2 weeks ago, beginning of September, somewhere around there. They told me to go back to my first experience with an entity, well, a possessed being. Well, in my case, it was a reptilian disguised as a human and who turned out to be a shapeshifter who eventually, how you say it, what's the English word, locked me into, well, his dark magic. He hypnotized me in a way, and it started out as a fun game. Well, how I met him, that's a long story, but I already knew him for a while because um, I had a plan in 2012 with the money I received from my work I had to let go of because of my health. The beginning of that journey, I had, well, there was something going on, and therefore I couldn't do my work anymore in the care sector. And I got money for a year. So, yay. So the plan was, I'm gonna rent out my house and I'm gonna live very, very low budget this coming year, and then I'm gonna buy a camper, a little house on wheels, and I go travel through Europe and do my thing, do my shiatsu and make art and sell things and just be free and go wherever my heart wants to go. And so I met this guy and online, and he was part of the well, human of flesh and blood uh, community here in the Netherlands, and one of the frontiers. So I came in contact with him about living in a little house on wheels, and because he was already living that way, and we had a great connection, and we talked and for many many hours, and eventually he told me that he was having the illness of Lyme disease. And I was like, you know what, you come over and let me work on you for a whole week and see if we can reset it, turn it around. Yeah, while working with the elements, what I do within the body and without. So he came over, and the first 2 days it was like magic, and I never experienced someone, that was receiving my healing work, reflecting back to me exactly what I was doing and happening, and including the portals, everything. He could just, it was magical. So I was like, whoa. And a week before he came over, I had this dream. I was in the shower, and behind me there was this, the wall just broke open, and I just, I was like, what? So I stepped out of the shower and I looked at the wall, and there was this very huge, I don't know, 3 meter long rainbow snake that came out of the wall. And he looked at me. Before he left, he went to the window and he looked at me with that same look, that he locked me in. It was like hypnotizing. And I had to follow the snake. So I went out, and apparently I was somewhere in India, looking at the environment. I was somewhere in India, and I went on a kind of skateboard that went like the speed of light, so fast, and I followed the snake, and I came across a monastery with, with monks, and they were laughing. And look at her, she's going so fast. It was really a fun experience also. But and then on my left there was a restaurant, and he was sitting there. I knew it, but he was in human form. And I went to the table, and I couldn't see his face. His face was not clear, but I had to give him a kiss. So I gave him a kiss. That happened the week before. Now back to a reptilian shapeshifter, who I invited into my home. And and the same period before, I started having experiences in the weeks before. When I was looking in the mirror, I could see my face change constantly. And I saw my father. Suddenly, my father came out of the mirror. So, I was like, what the fuck? Am I losing my mind? Am I going crazy? So that was in 2012. When I started, doing the shadow work, and I had my first encounter, but I was still very, I didn't know what was happening. Later on, I remembered that I had an encounter when I was 4 years old with a reptilian, who tried to, he did some kind of sex ritual with me as a child. And But that was later because in that moment I was totally oblivious and I didn't know, you know. So so his face started to change, and so I told him, well, recently it happened to myself when I was looking in the mirror, and you know I felt very scared, and he was like, well, there's nothing to be scared about, you know, it's just a fun game. And I didn't felt scared, so I was like, okay. And then he started this game, and he would turn around his head and change, and first in an elderly woman, and change again and again and again. And he became more scary every time, you know, until the point I was totally like, you know, in the frequency of fear, and he could just lock me in and do whatever he wanted to do with me. So that was like some kind of sex magic. And I found myself on the bed. And oh, sorry, I still have something on. So I found myself on the bed. And it was like he was opening my clitoris with a knife. That's how it felt. And he put something in. And the next day I felt it was a little snake going through my body. But in that moment, well, it was like a false light Kundalini activation. Uh, because literally two snakes came into my feet. My head fully exploded. There was nothing left of my head, and I found myself in high speed. I went out of my body with him, and I was in this realm of I don't know, but he looked like the most scary reptilian, draconian, dragon, devil like being thing with scales and everything. And I looked at myself and I looked the same, you know. So that was very scary. That was very scary. And so that was my first experience with, well, my second, but then I was 4 years old and I didn't, came to find, I remembered that later. So my first experience with, well, a reptilian in this case, shapeshifter. And I was totally oblivious. So he could get me into the frequency of fear. And you have to be in the frequency of fear or anger. You know, you have to lower your frequency for them to enter your field. So, but I didn't know that at that moment, of course. So he could do whatever he wanted to do with me. And well, a long story short, someone came over, and well, he became my partner later on, and we had this karmic relationship, and we had, well, unsolved issues, a lot of shadow work to do together. But he came into my life in divine timing, of course, and he took out because I could feel the snake going through my body, and I thought I was losing it, you know. And and he was totally oblivious in that moment when it came to spirituality, you know, and other dimensions. And I had already, you know, experienced things like that. Well, not like that, but you know, I knew there was more than what we could see. I had experiences with that, but not with entities. So, so you can imagine. So I told him what happened, and I told him I was going totally nuts because I could feel a snake constantly going through my body, and I asked him if he could please take it out. And he was so loving, and he was like, yeah, of course. And so I told him, well, it's here, and please place your hand on it and take it out. And he took it out. You know, I could feel it. Look, he took it out, and and he was above the toilet the whole night for hours and hours. So you know, but he took it out. But the minute he took it out, my body became ill. You know, it was like it were just huge blisters, and it did so much pain. Huge blisters, in the area of my yoni, but also, going around, both holes. So, and it would go inside. So it started to go inside, and then I was still in the Netherlands, and I went to my, doctor. So I got some stuff, to. They didn't know exactly what it was. It was not a disease or a sexual disease. They didn't know what it was, but of course it was something with an energetic origin, black magic origin. Of course, they didn't know, and I was still, very, oblivious. So I took some things and it didn't help, of course. And because of the pain, one night there was so much pain because it was going inside. I was crying all night long, and I relived, because of the pain I was feeling down there. I relived in feeling, not in seeing, but in feeling. I relived an experience I experienced as a child when I was 7 years old, when there was a rape with a knife upon my throat. Um, when I was staying over somewhere with an aunt and uncle, um, during a family celebration, and there was a babysitter, and he took advantage of my nieces, their whole childhood. But I was also, one time, but in a very violent way, the victim of him. And well, so that's, that's, so I met, you could say, the deepest darkness in 2012, and at the same time, because of that deepest darkness, I remembered something that needed my light, and my love. Two incidents when I was 4 years old with reptilian, and later when I was 7, and to give it my light. And then shortly after, well, in the months following, and I started to see exactly what happened, and I was brought back through a member of my team to the experience and look at it, and that is why I couldn't see the face, because I was, he was behind me when he was doing it, the predator. And so there was full circle, and I transformed it, and and my inner child started to feel safe again. Well, so eventually that black magic, dark experience turned out to be a beautiful transforming experience, but not for my body. So I couldn't go to the toilet for a long time. So I went to the doctor, and they gave me something, didn't work. And at the same time, I was ready to, because the house on wheels, because I became ill, didn't work. So my partner came into my life, and we wanted to start a community with friends in Belgium. That was the first time we went to Belgium, and then later on we were brought to a place where we could take care of the land, and it was a beautiful place. And there I could fully, recover and heal myself. Because after that experience, with all the blisters getting inside, I couldn't go to the toilet, and it took about 2 weeks and 3 weeks, and then I was finally in Belgium. Um, Through a soul brother, he told me there's this, shamanic doctor. He used to be a doctor, but he knows so much. And people with cancer in their latest stadium, they go around from all of Europe. They travel to the chateau. That's his name, the chateau. And and they just live. And so he's very, very gifted, and you have to go there. So I went there, and it was in my fourth week. I hadn't been to the toilet for 4 weeks. You can imagine the pain. But I stayed, in my I stayed positive and I did everything I could and do shiatsu on myself, and but nothing was working. So I came to see that, well, magician in a way. And well, he just gave me one advice, take 2 big spoons of vitamin C every day, and some baking soda with some Celtic salt and some lemon. Also a liter and like 4 liters of water, and don't eat just a shake. I had an avocado banana shake to fill up, the hunger. And but it didn't work also. And then it was week, I don't know, week 5 or something. And I was just so tired of the pain. And my partner had the most amazing idea. He was just like, baking soda. We're gonna try and do it with baking soda with a water klezma. And I was like, okay, And so we did. And that was the way to get it loose. It was like stone, so it needed to get loose from the edges. And I went into the bathtub, and it took me about a few hours to get everything out. And it was like reliving the little snake that was brought in during the sex magic, came out again like a very big snake. But of course, it's a wonder. It's a wonder that my Lord's ingestion, you know, channel didn't, broke, or it stayed intact. So that's, it's like a miracle. And but my organs, everything was just sick with bacteria, and so all my organs, including my Lord's ingestion and the yoni area, everything felt so sick. And then I suddenly got pregnant, and I cannot get pregnant, so I got pregnant, and that turned out to be a miscarriage, of course, because my body was just, so sick. And then I, within 6 months, and then I got pregnant again with a twin, with twins, and it became also it became my body couldn't um, it broke it off, and but in a way that I lost so much blood that my partner had to drive me to the hospital, and I was out of my body. And so I was like, okay, then this is my time, apparently. And so I was looking at myself and my dogs, and I was like, no, this is not my time. And I started just banging on I could feel the power inside myself, and I just started banging myself very hard. And I got back into my body. So, and during that time, also, that was in the same period. Can you imagine? It was just, whoa, one crazy dark ride. A friend of my partner, who I didn't know, but he came to visit, and well, that was an entity um, possession I experienced for the first time. His eyes became black after he just called upon, ooh, made very crazy sounds. His eyes turned black. And I knew that I had to stay in the frequency of love and just call upon light and become more light. And my partner and I did that. We stayed in perfect balance and harmony and love. And so he couldn't enter our fields, but it took us a whole night, even longer, to get him out of our space, out of our house. And then, I was just like, oh man, I'm so tired. Please come and get me. And well, then someone came to look at a project my partner was working on, a free energy project. And well, and he felt like, I know you, soul family, or we have many lifetimes together. And he was just offering us, and he didn't know why, but I've told you before, but he didn't know why in another video. And he bought something in the Ardennes in Belgium, and there was a caravan also, and if we would like to, take care of the property there. And so I could heal and finally rest. Because simultaneously with everything I've just told, there was also, I rented my house to someone who decided not to pay rent. So, and my money ended, of course, because I had money for a year from my former work. And so, I couldn't pay my mortgage, and well, and it became a loss. I had to go to the court, and another court case that followed, and I was just so, and it was all so unfair, and just so, it was, so I was like, wow, this system is totally fucked up. And, but I needed to experience that, to see how they work, that the lawyer dictates the show that goes on, and the lawyer who's getting paid the most, usually wins. And so, and then I finally ended up in the Ardennes. And that's when my journey started, going. Because I was already, because we went to Belgium for a while and to start that community, but we had to go back because of the court cases of my house, and the woman who rented the place and then decided not to pay any rent. And so we went back for a period of time to the Netherlands first for a couple of months, I don't know, 5, 6 months. And but when we were for the first time in Belgium, we were in this very old, well, big place, and a very old farm, and there was a forest nearby with a castle. Well, lots of dark shit happened there also, uh, on those grounds with rituals, and you could feel it. But when I was there, the house was also haunted. So, and you have to imagine, I was, I'd seen that Belgium doctor, and I was on the vitamin C, and in that process of, and finally the baking soda, and that was there, that it came loose. And then in the Netherlands, I had the 2 miscarriages and the out of body experience, and well, and blah blah. But when we were in Belgium the first time, um, in that house, there was so much going on, so much entities, and he had contact with the ghost hunter of Belgium, the ghost hunter of Belgium, and he was working together with Michael, Archangel Michael, and their youngest son, who was just a beautiful diamond child, fully open, so powerful. He had an experience in the bedroom, and they called upon me because he had talked to the ghost hunter. He had him on the phone, and I have to talk to Esther. I'm Qizenna. I always call myself Qizenna, but I'm Esther, Qizenna Esther, and I want to talk to Esther. So, and imagine the state I was in. My body fully sick, but we stay positive. And so I had this ghost hunter on the phone working with Michael, and I didn't knew in that moment. I was still, very much oblivious and about dark, you know, the false angels, and you know. So I went to the bedroom where the child was, who was just in total shock, and of what he had seen. And there was this huge, huge, well, entity with bad and very dark intention. I could feel it. And so he was like, well, go find the center of the room and go sit there and do you feel the portal? Do you see the portal? And I was like, yeah, I feel it there. I know, I see the location. Well, and then he told me to um, invite the entity into my heart space, and then through my heart space, send it through the portal. And then he would catch it. He would catch it in his field, and he would send it and keep it there for a while until he could send it to Archangel Michael. So that was what I was being told. So that was a second false light experience and an entity that, well, left something within my field. But I could also feel it. It was such a weird experience, truly. But I thought I was doing the right thing. Yeah. So I came back to the Netherlands after that. And so, I had the miscarriages. And because my body was so sick and I was still on the vitamin C and the Ayurveda and the herbs. And I met this Ayurveda doctor and he came on my path and he was like, you need to use the herbs of mother because there's no oxygen left in your blood and otherwise you die. Okay, so okay, well, let's do that then. I already died, almost, and so I was like, okay, and so I did. And there was always, and he came with another guy who felt, I don't know, I never met him before, but he was just there to tell me that I was dimension hopping. I was not in my body. I was constantly out of my body. And I was like, okay, how, I mean, here I am, No, he's like, you're constantly dimension hopping and you need to get into your body. So we did an exercise and I got into my body. And so, and I was sitting with that Ayurvedic doctor for a moment and I told him, that was during my short period in the Netherlands after the first time in Belgium. We were living in this place and it looked out over a forest. And I told him, that guy, our Ayurvedic doctor, so he was also working with portals. But I told him there's this, I don't know, it feels like I want to go into that forest, like there's something there. And so he told me, no, that's a portal and you need to connect to that portal. And because we're going to need those portals in the end, just a reflection back to when I started, the portals that are now being activated and we are going through. So that's, that became clear. That is why I needed to go back to the first beginning of my encounter with a, well, in my case, a reptilian shapeshifter and the things that followed. So I needed to look at it from the wisdom I have now, to see where we are now. So, but that's my experience, I had to experience all that dark shit. uh, but where was I? Oh yeah, so with the portals, yeah. And then this guy came because he wanted to look at the project, free energy project of my partner, and we ended up in Belgium near the French border, but also in a place where with lots of castles where there was so much dark energy present there. So I was there to clear it. Also, but also clear myself and work with the elementary consciousness within and without, and finally had the time and the peace to do that in every breath, in every moment. I was with my dogs in the forest and I just experienced so many powerful places there. And I learned to work with portals and within, without, and learned to work with the 23 element, well, codings in a way, layers, dimensions, and with the 48 mineral codings within, without, and with the sounds and the symbols and my own geometry, because we all have our own unique geometry, our own geometry we form as our own true Merkaba, you could say. It's not a Merkaba, it's your own geometry. So that became clear also. It's your own geometry. And when you become your cosmic mother and cosmic father again, and your inner child with the creative flame can come home, that is because your own geometry is fully activated. Your own geometry house, in a way. And so I started to work with the sounds and with the elementary consciousness in different ways. With the crystals, I started creating crystal grids, and I started to travel with crystals, and organ by organ. You know, I just started to work organ by organ to reset my organs. And that's what I needed to do. I needed to do it all by myself. Well, of course, with my team, but I was not aware of that yet. You know, I had my short moments of, you know, being fully anchored into 0 point, and I would have connection to my highest light, but it was not constant. So yeah, so you know, and I also had some encounters there because I was still working with false light geometry. So I locked myself back into well, the false matrix in a way, and I was still calling upon things outside myself, you know, not fully understanding and trusting my own power and light, and that is all within me. So I was I was entering this very magical time, which, you know, the forest would disappear, and I would see myself. I would just, you know, turn into nothingness, and realizing that it's all coding in essence, and I needed to experience that also. But at the same time, there were constant attacks, you know, from the dark to slow down my process. But I managed to get out of it every time. So when you experience attacks from darkness, the lower frequency realms, or, you know, it is because you're doing your shadow work. And I have experienced personally that in every shadow, there, well, not in every shadow, but in lots of shadows, there are like parasites, and we come to this incarnation, and we all have, you know, some parasites within shadows from this life, or, you know, other parallel lives they have locked us into through trauma, you know, or contracts. And you could say that because of that parasite, as long as you haven't given your light and love to that shadow, it can reflect itself. You know, it's very easy for a entity, low frequency entity to hook onto you. But it's like a reflection from the inside, in a way. So you have those encounters, but it's like because you're doing your shadow work, but it's not visible to everyone. We all have different experiences, but to me, it became visible, and I experienced it and felt it, and I also experienced the frequency attack. So, and I have experienced also during lovemaking, because I was going very rapidly through my process, and my partner, you know, the frequency was just, I was going in frequency embodiment higher and higher, and he was just staying in the low frequency, and the anger against everything within the game, and he was not truly doing his shadow work. So he became an asset for the dark. So they started to use him. You know, he's been taken over also 2 times, and when he was totally possessed. So that was also a exercise for me to realize that as as long as you stay balanced in 0 point and you stay in the frequency of the unconditional love and you just become more light and light and light and light, they cannot enter your field. So, so maybe it's a bit scary for someone out there, that what I'm sharing, but it's nothing to fear. Um, if you stay in the frequency of unconditional love and be in your light and become more light, beam it away eventually. So yeah, so that that happened, and he came back into my life. We were separated for 2 years, and then in June last year he came back as a friend. I thought, he was on a good way. He was working on his shadows, and I heard through mutual friends that he was doing okay. So, and we have experienced so much together, and it would be nice to be friends. So I let him back into my life, and it backfired. So he was possessed again, and with black eyes this time, and eventually he attacked me, and I was gone 2 times, and but my dogs saved me. They pulled him out of balance, so I could just, like a snake, and get outside and run to the neighbors. And but he's still in jail, still today. So yeah, so but that's the black eyes. I've experienced black eyes, a possession many times, and frequency attacks from above. When I was in the forest, I was in the forest with my dogs, and because I received the sound, and that sound felt so great, and I was just repeating that sound and repeating that sound and repeating that sound and repeating that sound. And now I know, because I totally forgot about the sound, and even when I came home, it was locked out of my memory in a way, because I could feel the power of it. So I went into the forest and I just did my honor, and created, well, a piece of art with nature in a way, with my crystals in the center. And I just started repeating that sound, repeating that sound, repeating that sound. And I could feel just, becoming, well, you could say, in light, so powerful. And then there was suddenly above me, there was this humming sound, ooh, above the treetops, and it and they just it was pure evil. So it was like an energy attack. It was truly like an energy attack. So I called upon all the light within me, and all the light that is part of all that I am, in that moment, and I called upon the elementals and about the elementary realms, and just be with me now, be with me now, be with me now, because it was very scary, in a way. It was very powerful, that frequency attack. So I was just like, and bam, and we stood there in light, and that was it. It left. But I never used that sound again. But I couldn't never use that sound again, because it was gone. I couldn't remember the sound I was tuning. And so that is why I needed to go back. I was guided to go back to the first and just travel through those entity and attacks and black eyes, possessed human experiences, to realize now that I was singing the sound in that moment. Vera Yumika L. Vera Yumika L. So I was singing that. And so it came back eventually in divine timing. But so that was a frequency attack. And I had also, we lived in this caravan on that huge property with water. It was magical. And with the dogs. And I was just lying with my head on my partner's lap, just resting one evening. And there was just this, it looked like a beehive with all holes. Above the caravan, the roof was gone of the caravan. I could see this beehive with all the holes. And you feel it when it's not purity, when it's not unconditional love. You know it. It feels, and I felt this is not good. And I could, and I suddenly I was on the couch, and at the same time I was on that, I don't know, beehive ship like something, but I couldn't see, but I felt they were doing something to my heart. I could feel it. They were doing something to my heart, and I couldn't move. I was totally paralyzed. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. So I couldn't talk to my partner, and he was totally oblivious. He was still not so into the higher frequencies. And his consciousness was still very narrow. So he didn't know. And so I was just lying there and just let it happen because I couldn't do anything. I was totally paralyzed. And so that was an attack. And after I had, well, how can I say it? Oh, yes. Yeah. Well, it was a soul brother was brought on my path through FBI book, and he saw I was painting soul. I painted soul portraits during those days also, and he wanted to have a soul portrait. So one evening I did it through pictures then. So I had to go in meditation. So I went into meditation in the water. I always did it in the water. And I looked at his picture and just asked to show me what I needed to show him. So and I already set the intent for myself that I wanted to go back to the first incarnation in this false matrix. So I had set the intention to go back and do that. And it was shortly after, that they did that thing with my heart, with that hive. And so I started to align, and I saw myself as well. First I thought it was him, but later on it was me. As an Indian chief, and I was being burned alive, and I could feel the whole thing, I was being burned alive. In the village, there was a tribe war going on, and something like that, and lots of murder. And I was looking at my wife, who was just, getting the knife and was dying. So we were both dying, and we were looking at each other. That was him. So eventually I painted him, the wife I had, you know. So we brought light to that experience, that parallel life, that past life, I want to call it. And for me, it was my first experience, my first incarnation here. So that, all in divine timing, and there is no coincidence, never. But before I, that is why, before I went back to that first incarnation experience, I was just in a constant loop. And I believe now, because I needed to go back to the experience, I understand now that looping that was needed, I couldn't get to the center. That was because of what they did to my heart, when I was paralyzed. And so I needed to do the looping first. And it was like I was in an infinite loop, in some kind of, well, it felt like a train. And there was, in the center, there was this train station, and there I needed to go there, I needed to go there, get into the center of that loop train I was in. And there were beings in light, beautiful, pure light beings were there present. I could see them every time I was in that center point. But I was just gone, but also conscious at the same time. So I don't know how long it took, but I believe it was the whole night. But I was in that loop, 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 and then eventually I fell down on the stove, the wood stove in the caravan, with my head, and I just passed out completely. And and when I woke up the next morning, my partner found me. And what happened? Well, I could share a bit, but he didn't fully, could not comprehend exactly what happened, of course. Me also, but it was I was being brought because of that. I could go back to my I managed to get to the center point, and and from there I could go back to my first incarnation within this game, and that was connected to that soul brother who connected me for a soul portrait. Beautiful how it works. So when darkness, oh yeah, oh yeah, and when I woke up at the next morning, I felt like reborn, fully reborn, and I only wanted to eat apples the whole day. It was just, so it was great. My body reset. It was also great for my body, and I could feel my heart chakra fully opening. So why am I sharing this? Also, it's when we experience um, darkness, when we go through our shadows, and we all experience it differently. I had to experience it the way I have experienced it because of who I am in essence of soul and what the reason why I'm here. So I needed to experience it that way, and that's why I needed to share. I need to share that also with you guys now because it's also reflected. I was being brought back to all those experiences because it has to do with the now we are in, present energies. But let me finish first. Oh yeah, I started eating apples the whole day. Please get me apples. I felt like, oh, it's so pure, such a pure moment. But well, there's so much more. Oh yeah, one more thing about entities and experience. I also had an experience with someone who entered, who came. There was also this little house, like a hunter's house, and it was rented sometimes, very seldom, but sometimes one time every 2 months. So there were and um, souls that would come there for a weekend. It was always soul family, or connected to parallel past lives. So a father and a son came, and his son was my son in a parallel past life, and so we had this great weekend with the father and the son. But he went home back to Ghent in Belgium, and shortly after, well, no, sometime before, I was during dream time. I was somewhere where, and I saw my partner walking in the distance, somewhere in a street with houses with stairs, and I saw him entering a door. And then, so I was like, oh, hey, he's there. So I started following him. And then suddenly there were these guys in black robes with red eyes, pure evil, looking at me. And that was the first encounter I had with those, well, let's call them red eye shadow beings. And, well, they scared the hell out of me. So I was like, and they asked me, where is he? Bring him to us, bring us to him. And I just obeyed, and I just, showed them the path to the stairs and the door my partner went through. So they followed my partner. That was that. And I was like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have done that. So, but I was locked into fear. So that was a lesson, of course. And it was, you know, it backfired eventually. And it turned out, um, it was reflected back to me through a entity that was being activated in my partner. So, and it was like, when we were having sex, I started feeling very empty after, and we had beautiful, we could make love in a beautiful way and fully surrender, and he would give me like a 1 hour love and attention until, my flower was fully open, and it was beautiful, and we had beautiful love making. But then suddenly after, I would feel so empty and drained, and I didn't understand why. And then, um, I started to see, after a while, I started to see, I was, we were making love. I saw a shadow being, a very strange shadow being. Let me call it a shadow being, hanging above him, a very big one, and attached to his, well, let's call it the triangle, where the tail is, um, and connected to me also. And I could talk to it, telepathically. So I asked, "Why are you here? What are you doing?" I was not scared. I had learned that by now. I was like, "Okay, I don't, just be love, be light, and just talk to it." So I talked to it, and well, he told me he was connected to my partner through a contract from a long time ago, and so because I was like, well, we don't need you here, don't you want to go back to the light, And no, he was like, no, I'm just, this is what I do, this is my work, and I'm as long as I'm connected to the contract, and only my partner could, you know, dissolve that contract by looking at that shadow, and he didn't want to do his shadow work. But he was tapping off the sex energy, so it was like sex magic in a way also. So that is why I was feeling so empty. And I tried to talk about him, but I tried to talk about it with him, but he just wouldn't go there. So eventually, of course, our relationship ended. But we did all the karmic work that was needed, so it was time to let go. But getting back to the shadow being with the black cloak and red eyes. The second time I had an encounter, that was because of that man and boy, father and son, who were in the house, little house on the property, having a short vacation. My highest light told me that there was a concert, the monster concert, like a rock concert, and I had to make clear to him, to that boy, because we connected through FBI book, we stayed in contact, that he shouldn't go there. It was dangerous for him to go there. But he was not awakened, not, you know. So how do you get a boy he was 16 years old. So I didn't manage to prevent it. So he went to the concert after all, and so I was called upon to go into meditation. And during those days, I needed to, to get in full alignment in 0 point with highest light. I needed to be in the water. So I would always meditate in the water. And so I went into the water and did my thing, and suddenly I was just in this triangle space of glass, um, but you could not see through it. It was like platinum glass, and I was in in the top of the pyramid and flying above. So it felt like I was in the consciousness of that, my son in a past life, parallel life, and he was at the concert in that moment. But the way I saw it, I was flying above him, and I could see a scene of a music store, and there were records, and he wanted to buy a record, and I was there in the exact right moment because he wanted to buy a record, which I now think it's the ticket he wanted to, he wanted to buy the ticket at the entrance of the concert, something like that. And in that same moment, there was a door, because there was no door, a door was opened, and two of those shadow cloaked beings with red eyes that scared me before uh, wanted to come in, and they saw me, and I saw them, and I was just like, don't you, don't you come in, So I was like, but in love, and I just, beamed all the light I had. Just I beamed and I looked at them, and that was all was needed. And they turned around, and the door was gone again, and they left. So that was a lesson for me, how to a lesson in don't get locked into your fear frequency, or don't get angry. Just know how strong you are, and with light and love, you can beam it all away. So and there is much more. I can write books about it, but these are the most important things I have to share now, because it's being reflected back to us um, in this last phase. They are doing everything they can to get us out of balance, and when your when your field is so strong that nothing can enter anymore, because you're in a constant state of 0 point, they also have, you know, tried. They use different ways, and I will share it. What I have experienced this past weeks within this poisoned, hijacked realm, well, game, and what they are doing now. Well, first, Queenie, Queenie of England, is has left her vessel, and she's back home, doing her Queenie work there, in the lower frequency, well, 4D realm, AI realm, how you want to call it, but where all that is AI and well, evil is present. Um, so she's back home being a queen there, and she's needed there. So darkness has divine timing too, but they are they are trying everything they can because they have already lost, but they don't give up without a fight. And I was told that the dark feminine program has started. Um, uh, initiated through the dark. And a few months back, I talked about the Widow program, Black Widow program they had started, and that's the women who have had the jab, who are now being activated through an AI program. And, their consciousness is being hijacked, to seduce awakened men who didn't have the jab, to have sex with them. So that was the Black Widow program, and now there is the Dark Feminine program that is being activated, and what it is exactly, I don't know yet. It came true, and it has to do with Queenie Elizabeth, because she's back home. So well, as soon as I experience something I will let you know. I'm not sure. Maybe you know already what it means. So they will. Well, it has to do with the feminine, of course. So they will. It's a program that will attack the feminine. They at least they will try, of course. But if we stay in our unconditional love and call upon all that we are in our light, and they don't have a chance. They don't have a chance, and trust that. You know, trust that fully. And so yeah, that yeah, and I have experienced these past 4 days, and a brother of mine had already experienced that before with flies. And when I was talking about it this morning with his sister, um, I will get to the experience of what happened in a moment. But I realized that, what's his name? One of the World Health Organization parasites. Oh, Billy, Kill Bill, our Kill Bill jab queen, king, king. Uh, well, he's not the king. We are the queens and kings. Yeah, we are the true royalty, and So yeah, and I had yesterday evening when I went to bed, I had this white roses everywhere and just being initiated into which was called the Source White Rose Priestess Council, and um, of the white rose, and well, it's like the queen DNA is being activated again, and I already heard about it, and I just experienced it last night. So that's also going on. We are being reactivated as queens and kings because we are the true royalty. So that, and where was I? Blah blah. I was. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So our Kill Bill, Jabby, he released mosquitoes, like I don't know, like 3 millions or something, AI mosquitoes, Monsanto mosquitoes. They worked on it years and years and years back already, but now apparently they have released it. And I have been experiencing this past 4 nights. Yeah, I wake up because my toes start to itch like crazy. I wake up because my toes are just itching like crazy, and I have to rub them and rub them, and I'm just like, oh man, and it's 4 o'clock every time for these past 4 nights, and then I just rub them so hard as I can, and then I let go. I'm like, okay, I can go back to sleep, and then there's this mosquito in the room, and it's very hard for mosquitoes to enter my house because I have like that. But of course, so there's this mosquito, but it's an attacking mosquito. It's like he wants to attack my ear, so it's like and constantly like an I don't know, a warrior, black magic warrior mosquito. So it was funny also, but he was going for my ear. So eventually I took I took the blanket above my head like that, and I placed my hand under the blanket, and he just kept on getting at my ear, and I just waited, divine timing, and then you know, and there he went, bye bye. So, but it happened 4 nights in a row, truly. So they cannot enter my field, the entities, or they can try, but they cannot. They can only knock, because once you're in a constant 0 point, they cannot enter your field anymore. And if they do, if you're still going through your shadows, remember, be love, you know, and know how powerful you are. And be light, beam your light. So nothing can happen. they can also not enter your system. And if it does happen, it's for the highest good. Then you need to face that shadow, and because there's a reason for it, so you can embody more light, and you are being forced in a way to step into your power. So don't worry about that. But so that was the experience, with the mosquitoes. And my brother had it with flies, but also with mosquitoes. So I'm just sharing that because I'm wondering if any one of you out there experienced the same with the mosquitoes. Yeah. But you can trust, your team will always wake you up. Your body is consciousness is so smart and wise. It will wake you up. It will wake you up. As soon as there's a low frequency within your field, they will wake you up. So for me, it's the mosquitoes. They are trying it through the mosquitoes, but it's not working. And of course, what we see now is that so now I'm the Black Feminine program that they have activated. I feel it's like because I saw in an article, my brother sent it to me. It was in the news here in the Netherlands yesterday. A picture of someone going to a party, in spite of the COVID. They went to a party, and you could see the picture. I will show it here in the video. You will see it in a moment. And the one who is partying has black eyes. You can see very clearly it's a possessed human with black eyes. So they show you, they always show us what they are doing. They always do that. So yeah, fascinating. So that started also, of course. So they will try to reach us and try to get us out of balance by activating parasites within, let's call it low frequency humans who are still oblivious, and the ones with the jabs. They can also control now. So I've seen it in my father. My father also, his eyes turned black. So so that's also happening now, more and more and more and more. And I saw it here in the street also happening with my neighbor. It was one parasite show, and possessed humans. So just be aware of that, and don't go to large parties. And if neighbors invite you, if you have neighbors who are fully jabbed, and they are throwing a party, I personally would say, well, sorry, I have COVID, cannot come. I'm just gonna avoid it. I'm just gonna focus on all that is light and love, and on the work that still needs to be done, and connect to soul family, and and just we're going towards the portals. That's how I feel it now, and they're going to do everything they can to stop us, and because there are bad losers, they can try, but they already lost. So I'm just sharing this because it's apparently it's important for some of you out there that I share this. And if you are stumbling upon entities or things, or just you have questions about it, just send me an email. Send me an email. Just go to my website and contact, and go to the contact form and just share, and I will get back to you. I always get back to you. So, if I can be of any assistance, just let me know. Well, it's a long video, a long video, I know. And if you have watched it all the way to the end, oh, wow. It was needed, apparently. Um, so let's end with something that, because, I've experienced lots of darkness and, but therefore also lots of magic and pure bliss. And it was all needed to be where I am now and be ready for this end phase. And so I'm gonna end this video with a song that came through when I was living, in Belgium, in the Ardennes, and going for walks every day with my dogs. Um, it's a very cute song, and I used to sing it to empower myself. It's the Starlight Walk. It's the song of the Starlight Walk, and I will place the lyrics below. You know, so if you want to sing it to empower yourself, it's a fun and loving song. And after all these talk about the entities and shadow beings, and let's end with a very light song. Well, hang in there, and if there are questions, just let me know. Love to you all. Bye for now. Hello, Earth Tribe. It has started snowing here, and so all is gonna be magical white very soon. Gotta love it. We just felt like sharing a song that came through during my walk a couple of days ago, and with thanks to the elementals and my higher self. And it's such a sweet song, such a loving song, and I call it the Starlight Walk. And I would love to share it with you all, because it holds so much love inside, and it would be so fun if we could sing it together around the globe. If this resonates with you, of course. The text I will place below. So if you feel like the Star Walk song during your walk in nature, feel free. I hope I remember all the lines. The Starlight Walk. Where there's love, there is light. Where there's light, there is laughter. Where there's laughter, there is happiness. Where we walk, there is love. Where we walk, there is light. Where we walk, there is peace and harmony. Walking as one creates love and unity. Love and unity. Come on, you starseed. Time for the Starlight Walk. You are a star, strong as a crystal rock. Come on, you starseed. Time to shine your light. When we're shining as one, the earth will be alright. Will be alright. Where there's love, there is light. Where there's light, there is laughter. Where there's laughter, there is happiness. When we talk, there is love. When we talk, there is light. When we talk, there is healing energy. Our spoken words creates worlds of unity. Worlds of unity. Where there's love, there is light. Where there's light, there is laughter.
Where there's laughter, there is happiness. Choose love and there is light. Choose truth and there is healing. Choose self-love and set yourself free. Walking as one in love and unity. Love and unity. So that's the song. Look at that. It's all becoming white. The air is so fresh and clean. Hey, Marley. There we have Marley. Hello. Say hi. Well, I hope you're gonna sing the song with me. That would be so much fun. Okay, love and light to you all.